Okay, I know you don't smoke weed, so I'm gonna get you high today. Because it's Friday, you ain't got no job, you ain't got shit to do. Well, it is Friday after all, and there is some things I can do. That means we get to review AEW Rampage featuring several matches where we have Ruby Soho in action against Marina Shafir. We got the Blackpool Combat Club taking on the Butcher and the Blade along with their associate Kip Sabian and many other things. And of course, who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? But first things first, we're going to be reviewing finally Gatoh Move put out their last show they did back on December 28th of 2022. This was the last official show of 2022. Now, they normally post all their shows on YouTube, but I don't know why they took forever to get it done. This one is, of course, the Arena Shinkiba, which is reference to certain Joshi wrestlers that went on excursion to Mexico, and amongst them is our very own the Big Apple, or as some people call her, the Apple Goblin, or whatever, Mei Shruga. So I am excited to finally review this show. And then, of course, we got some news updates. We have one breaking news about a legendary wrestler in the Japanese world. Apparently, he ended up and had an underwent emergency surgery, but I'll get to that. And of course, more info about Himeka's retirement matches that she'll be doing before she officially retires in May. And we got plenty others to talk about. So let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, let's begin with Gatoh Move Pro Wrestling with Arena Shinkiba. Now, before I proceed, some of you are saying, isn't it supposed to be Shinkiba first ring? Yes, but there's a reason to that. Now, back in October, there was this thing called the CML Ladies Ring. This was an actual tournament, but it was freelanced by two of the female wrestlers from the promotion, Stephanie Valkyr and Dalis, who is no longer with the promotion now. However, they decided to bring out certain Yoshi wrestlers to participate in the Grand Prix for the women's division in CML, and of course, the winner of the tournament is Tao Hamna. However, later after that, they decided to invite the second round winner, and that is, of course, Color's very own Hikari Shimizu. And then, to my surprise, they decided they even booked Mei Shiruga, who I've been hearing that had a huge following down in Mexico. So it was a very successful tour with everyone, with all three of these ladies. So they are part of the. They will be in the main event, but however, they even brought in Kao Kobayashi, who, if you guys are believe it or not, she may not have been part of the excursion, but she had her experience down in Mexico in the past when she used to wear a mask, and I think it was a pretty good moment to bring it. So basically, everything is all Mexican themed for everyone, so they can enjoy. So enough of my yapping. Let's get started with the matches. Now, our first match is a three-way tag team match. We have Dragon Ninja with Chonchiru and Sayuri. They take on Sayaka Obihiro and Arco Montaña. And then, of course, we got Antonio Honda and Tokiko Kihara. That match was pretty fun and enjoyable. Not to mention, we knew certain moments because whenever Antonio Honda is, in fact, there, he brings his lousy guitar and start jamming, try to create confusion and misdirection to his opponents. But did it work? It did, but did it help him win the match? No. I was basically surprised that in fact this match ended up winning by Obihiro when she applied like when she pinned Honda. It was very surprising. So basically, this gave her a very good win for the opener, along with her tag team partner Arnico Montaña. So it was pretty good. I like it. Now our next match we have Miya Yotsuba taking on Mochi Natsumi. Now these two have already come across each other in various times in the Choco Pro. As you know, it was a very map, but this one was very good. I have to say, her in the ring kind of gave her more perspective what she can do in the ring, other than we've been seeing her in the mat. I thought it was pretty interesting for her, but she did not give up one way or the other, despite the fact that Miya is in fact a junior. Basically, she's still on the learning curve with all her seniors, and since um, Mochi is one of Emi Sakura's students, I have to say she really did test her pretty well. Until finally she put her in a Vader bomb, allowing her to pick up the win. Excuse me. Next match, we have a pretty good tag team match. I have to say, this one's one of my favorite ones. We have Sayaka and Chiko Shikawa. As I mentioned before, these two have played opponents and tag team recently, and they have improved a lot in both sides. However, they are facing a much experienced team, and that is the members of Colors, Yuko Sakurai and Saki. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This is going to fall in favor of Colors because they have the most experience, yes. But as I mentioned before, Chiko Shikawa and Sayaka have been improving on their wrestling craft as a tag team. And I did mention, I do believe that maybe one day they will be challenging for the Asian Dream tag team titles. And that's something I know for a fact that could happen. But I have to say, I was pretty good. I love this match. But to my surprise, it was Chiko Chikawa who picked up the win by pinning Yuko. I'm like, wow. Even Yuko and Saki couldn't believe it. Like, they can't believe it ended with Chi and Sayaka winning the match. I have to say, this was a big upset for Colors, because I'm sure they probably thought they had this one in the bag, and I'm sure some of you thought the same thing too. So let's get moving forward. Now, our next match is the Asian Dream Tag Team titles. We have the challengers, Kairi Yonoyama and Emi Sakura, taking on CDK's Masahiro Takanashi and Chris Brooks. Now, don't remember if Yonoyama and Sakura actually challenged for these belts before, but it was a pretty good match. I mean, I know for a fact Masa knows exactly what Emi is thinking, since they have been good friends for a long time, and that always plays out pretty well. So I was like thinking how this one's gonna turn. I'm like, well, man, this is gonna be very difficult because you got to remember, Yonoyama has a one advantage. She can pull off a high speed maneuver without you even knowing what happened until it's too late. However, that did not happen. It was Masa with the Magistral onto Kairi to pick up the win. This was a very good one. Like I said, Yonoyama is a very clever high speed wrestler, but not today. Or should I say, not on that day. Now, our main event is a 2 out of 3 falls. Team number 1, we have Hikari Shimizu and Tao Hamna taking on Mei Suga and Goa Kobayashi. So, now as I mentioned before, Hikari, Tai, and Mei, they all ended up going to Mexico for the excursion for the CMLL Grand Prix for the women's division. However, Kao Kobayashi had nothing to do with it, but she does have experience wrestling in Mexico, especially with CMLL back in the day. So basically, that's a good thing. So this became a 2 out of 3 falls. Now, before I proceed, you asked me, why did they call the show Arena Shinkiba? Because of Arena Mexico, which is a big venue where a lot of CMLL events takes place. It was strictly designed for their shows, and that's the same thing. So they kind of want to make this into a Mexican field since all four of these ladies had been in that situation. So that's the whole thing. I think. But if you guys know this or not, CML has this way of how they win their matches. If you know this or not, I think they're the only promotion I know of that only has two. You have to win by 2 out of 3 falls. And I know what you guys are thinking in the back of your heads. Like, wait a minute, isn't it just one fall? Yes, but to them, 2 out of 3 falls. And I don't know the extent about why what CLL has this, but yes, that's the whole thing. So I think they're keeping that feel just for this particular match, and I don't blame them. So first fall, on the other hand, this one was a double pin by both Kobayashi and Shiruga, pinning Shimizu and Hamna. I'm like, wow, that's fall number 1. So they win. Second round, it was a pretty good one with Tai Hamna applying her judo skills onto Mei Shiruga, putting her in a submission, and it was over right from there. Now the third fall, this one is a crucial one because anything could happen. Will it be Shiruga and Kobayashi to win, or will it be Shimizu and Hamna to win? That's what makes it so great. But I have to say, Mei Shiruga was the one who picked up the strong victory when she pinned Hamna real quick, and it was over right from there. So what I thought about this show, I have to say I liked it because it had a Mexican feel because of the excursion that all these 3 ladies experienced, and not to mention Kobayashi, who experienced it herself years ago. So it's great. I liked it. Hope they do more Gatoh Move shows. So I think that's pretty much it right now with this one. I believe it's time for AEW Rampage. All right, AEW Rampage opened up with a 6-man tag match. We got Blackpool Combat Club, John Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta taking on Kip Sabian, the Butcher, and the Blade. So I thought this was a very strong match. Very, very good. I have to say, there were some good moments that you can enjoy, especially when you look at the Blackpool Combat Club. They don't know the meaning of never give up, but bring in the most violent ways to win their matches. I think that's what I like about them. But I have to say, I don't think nobody anticipated that this match was going to fall in favor of the Butcher of the Blackpool Combat Club, because every moment we see that Blackpool Combat Club were on the verge, it seems that Butcher and the Blade are not willing to lose to a couple of guys they think that who have a violent mean streak should win. But it was, of course, Claudio that picked up the one with the uppercut onto the Blade, and it was over right from there. The writing was on the wall. Even Penelope tried to get involved. It did not help one way or the other. Now, as you know, Darby Allin talked about his timing as being the TNT champion, so he said he's going to leave this alone. He's going to go on a Blades of Glory. But, however, he did stated that he's going to help Ortiz after he helped him after what happened when Darby Allin put the TNT title on the line against Buddy Matthews. I don't know what it is, but Ortiz, as you know, is dealing with his own issues, and that is, of course, with Eddie Kingston. It did show later that that Ortiz has said, hey, "Look, I stand by you with all the crap you were going through and all this and that." So basically, we're gonna see a feud between those two. I think that's what's gonna take place. So we'll see. Now, Ricky Starks, as you know, he's not a happy camper that he did not get his hands on Jericho. But this time he's going to do this the one way I kind of figured he was going to go up to the root. First, he's going to start out with Daniel Garcia, and that's going to take place next week on Rampage. Now, the Impractical Jokers, I forgot their names, showed up along with Jericho's bat. But Jericho, as you know, with the devilish schemes, he had the JSA attack them, and then of course put them through a table to get his bat back that they took from him. But I would be surprised if the Practical Jokers get a little payback of their own. That's something I know for a fact could happen. Now, our next interview, Dustin Rhodes, as you know, he's been on edge since he came back. It appears that Swerve is sick and tired of these second generation wrestlers that he feels are taking the spotlight. But you know what, Dustin? You do not insult his family, especially his father. So he decided that he's going to put Swerve in his place. But Swerve sent his little goons, Trench and Parker Boudreaux, to deal with him. So this is a direct message that they're sending to him because they want to make sure that this is Swerve's house. Now, our next match, we have Marina Shafir and Ruby Soho. I thought this was a very interesting matchup because Marina, as you know, she is an MMA fighter. She could put Ruby Soho in a submission, but it only took a destination unknown by Ruby Soho to pick up the win and win it. However, out of the blue, here comes Toni Storm and Saraya. Now, they say they came down here to have a little chat. Before the chat even happened, we saw Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker attack them while Ruby's in the ring, who doesn't know what to do. Ruby is caught in the middle in this. As you know, we're seeing a division between wrestlers who were the OGs of All Elite versus wrestlers that came from other promotions, such as Toni Storm and Saraya. But Ruby Soho is amongst the amongst the Saraya and Toni Storm side, but I had that distinct feeling that we could see a third uh, faction here where they're the ones who doesn't care if you're original or from other locations. So I think that we could see that. But it was later announced during this little brawl that there's going to be a three-way match. Britt Baker versus Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho. I think that's going to be very interesting to see. Now, our next interview, we have Mark Briscoe. As you know, Mark made a good impression on Dynamite on the day of his brother's birthday, Jay Briscoe. All of a sudden, that little mealing little weasel, Mark Sterling, was trying to get him to sign with him. But, of course, Mark will go, I'm going solo. But, of course, Sterling did not like that one way or the other. But do not piss off, of course, Mark Briscoe. And, of course, Josh Woods tried to get involved, got in the middle to stop Briscoe from hurting him. But we're going to see a match between those two. Now, is Mark Briscoe going to go on his own as a wrestler? Yes. He has to carry on the legacy of him and his brother together. So he's run out the flag bearer of that. Our next match, we have Jungle Boy and Ryan versus Ryan Meneth. This was a pretty good match. I think it was interesting that we're now seeing that, okay, that Jungle Boy is done with the tag team thingy since him and this relationship with Hook is done. However, he did a pretty good job in this match when he did an elbow strike onto Meneth and pick up the win. However, here comes Brian Cage, who I believe it still has his feuds against him. So we'll see what happens then, because I'm sure we're going to see a big feud with those two. Now, our last interview, Hangman Page, as you know, he's been on the hinge ever since he lost to Jon Moxley. But he says that the pin that that Moxley put on him was kind of like an illegal move or something like that. But who knows what exactly. But, of course, Kip Sabian got involved, tried to tell him, this and that. But I'm sure Hangman's going to kick his ass one way or the other for getting in his face. Now, our main event is the AEW All-Atlantic Championship. We have Orange Cassidy taking on Lee Moriarty. This match was pretty good because we often seen times Orange Cassidy as an unorthodox wrestler. You look at Lee Moriarty, he is one of those guys that has technical aspects that could help him. Everything that he did to dismantle Orange Cassidy's arm, it worked. But the obvious question does remain: will it be enough to put away Moriarty? Because you got to remember, we got the Orange Punch. That's the problem. And then that did not work. However, Cassidy had to think outside the box, so he decided to pin Moriarty to retain the title. However, we did see Satnam Singh show up while right behind him, freaking Jay Lethal with that stolen globe award shows up, and then of course that scumbag Jarrett shows up too. The best friends tried to help, was not enough, but they got reinforcement by the former AEW World Tag Team Champions. As you know, they had their dealings towards these idiots for a while, but now this is going to be interesting. But I'm like thinking, are we going to see a rematch with the Acclaim for the AEW Tag Team titles? I'm sure we could when that day happens. So we'll find out this coming Wednesday what's going to take place. So as this moving forward, let's just end it right here with this and move on with NXT Level Up. Okie dokie. So who levels up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out. Our first match, we have Tank Ledger taking on the newcomer, Kale Dixon. Now, Kale Dixon, this is his second match so far in the NXT Level Up show. As for Tank Ledger, we know he had a bit more experience. He's been in this position before. I have to say, Tank Ledger is the one who was going to win this one because he does have the experience in this one, as I mentioned. So, but Kale Dixon played out the cockiness in this one. Cockiness could get you so far, but not winning if it's possible. Unless you're Grayson Waller, who is cocky enough to win. But it was Tank Ledger that applied a running power slam that allowed him to pick up the win. It just went into his favor. Now we get a very interesting interview with Kelly Kincaid with Axiom. He talks about scripts. As you know, he talks about a guy with a mask. He's pretending that he's not wearing a mask. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. It was real fun. But he also talked about Damon Kemp. Now, keep in mind, Damon Kemp ran on the parade on NXT, where, of course, Axiom and Tyler Bate had their friendly competition match. But Damon Kemp thinks it's a load of crap. So he right now has eyes in the back of his head, knowing that Damon Kemp could attack him. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match, we have Danny Palmer taking on Lash Legend. Now, Lash Legend, as you know, has been on a losing streak for quite some time, especially when she lost to Danny Palmer's closest friend, Soruka. So the obvious thing the commentators mentioned, will Lash Legend take her frustration out on her for losing to Soruka? I mean, yes, it could be a possibility because many would say Lash Legend should have won that match, but Soruka has been the talk about the NXT brand since she surprised that with that move, the Snow Stature. But Danny Palmer, on the other hand, has to step up her game against a much aggressive, much cocky Lash Legend. Now, Lash Legend always tries to get all the spotlight, but in this case, it did not do. It did give her some with a pinfall. I have to say, Lash Legend needs to pick up the slack, but Danny Palmer has to work even more. Now, our next match, we have Axiom versus Scripps. I have to say, a lot of good spots in this match. I mean, there are probably parts that will make you say, holy shit, the entire time. There was a moment where, when you were down on the ground, you just threw yourself up, kind of like what Shawn Michaels would do, and so is Hangman. Well, Scripps actually did that with super kick when Axiom did that. And of course, a moonsault, and then Axiom pulled off a super kick. I'm like, oh my god. I have to say, this is a good match of the night. Great match of NXT for this particular match. I'm like, wow. But it took the golden ratio to put away Scripps and give Axiom the win. So I have to say, I like this one. This one is definitely my favorite one of the night. So just put it out there. So I think that's pretty much it what we have for NXT Level Up. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, our news updates. So this is what we have so far that we're going to be talking. In Japan, it was revealed on the breaking news that Genichiro Tenryu underwent emergency surgery for a septic shock. Don't know what it is, but it seems like it was serious. However, they did mention later that the surgery was successful. He is now currently in the intensive care. No telling when will be out or anything else, but I do hear that they're gonna do some charity event like they did with Otani, the founder of Pro Wrestling Zero. So we may see that kind of thing happen. So I'll be putting this one up. We'll be keep an eye on this one as much as possible. So we'll go from there. Now, two things updates when it comes to Stardom. Our first one is of course Himeka. Keep in mind, I did reported that she will be retiring soon. I know some of you are like had a lot of questions. I did find a video that was by a YouTube Stardom fan page that has the subtitles. It was translated. I will put that on the description down below so you guys can um, see it yourselves what they were talking about. I'm sure that there's a lot, but we're going to be talking about her retirement matches now. She did say that she's going to have a match against Micah in the Yokohama Arena on the 23rd of April. So that's going to be her last official match before May for the ceremony. Now, other matches were announced. One on, as you know, for this month. She said she likes to have a match with Risa Sera in a hardcore rules match, but also possibly if it's possible with Prominence. So it's already been confirmed that there's going to be a hardcore rules match on the showcase. She'll be teaming with Micah and Julia DDM to take on our artist champions of Prominence, Risa Sera, Suzuki, and Kurumi Hirage. So there, she's gonna have that. Um, for the Yoyogi Stadium in Tokyo on the 4th of March, she'll be facing Sendai's Chihiro Hashimoto. It turns out I found a video on YouTube where they have met before. This is before DDM. Uh, it was a tag match. Himeka teamed up with Sudi. I will also put that video in the description down below so you guys can check it out. She did say that she wants to have a match with Takeru Sekiguchi. Now, we don't know for sure if it's going to be a singles match or a tag match, but she did mention on that Sekiguchi was her senior back in Atlas Girls, so it would make sense of her, but we don't know yet. There's still no word exactly. She did state if it's possible, so we'll see what the companies have to say, whoever she's working with or whatever. Now, as we speak, we're having Stardom's latest matches for the Triangle Derby. Now, I did not see it, but this one caught my attention. This was sooner gonna happen. After the match between Queen's Quest and Rebel X Enemy, Julia comes out. She said the same words that she said to Maya Yuhiki. Why are you here? Are you here for the red belt? Now, Mayuhiki said that she'll think about it. Now, she did explain, Mayuhiki, that she received an offer to come, representing Rebel X Enemy. She never said anything about coming for the red belt. Now, the issue is this. The story how it's being built is this. Back in her Ice Ribbon days, Julia lost to Mayuhiki 3 times for the Ice Infinity Championship. Now, Mayuhiki, last thing she would want to do is cross paths with Julia, but Julia's the one who is trying to cross the paths on this one. So, basically, Mayuhiki is a perfect opponent, but the obvious thing is, will she take it? That's the question. I know some of you are saying she has to take it. Well, we'll see, because this is more like issues that Julia has. Now, according to what Julia mentioned in the recently, that she felt that Mayuki was saying shit behind her back the entire time. We don't know for sure. We only hear the story of Julia. We yet to hear what is Mayuki's side of the story. So we'll find out soon enough. Now, as I mentioned before, we have several Yoshi girls making their way to the UK, specifically in London for Pro Wrestling Eve. One of the much earlier ones I mentioned was Suruminatsu. It turns out that she will be teaming up with another former member of the Oedo Tai, and that is none other than Session Moth Martina. If you guys know this, yes, Martina was a member of Oedo Tai. Real fun times. So we're gonna see a somewhat old school Oedo Tai reunion. So I'm looking forward to that. But their opponent is Alex Windsor, and I forgot the other person. But yeah, WrestleCon has announced for their upcoming guests for their show, and we have none other than the legend Medusa. So I'm looking forward to hear that. Now, we have talked about several wrestlers that will be making their appearance at the upcoming West Coast Pro event, Home of Killers, that will be taking place on the 3rd of April. However, they just officially announced their match. We have Mike Bailey taking on Michael Oku. I know that's going to be one good match. So definitely going to see that. Now, another match has been assigned from JCW for March Madness. On March 4th, we have Griffin McCoy taking on Mecca. Also, another match that was set. This one is from the Black Label Pro 40. All My Friends Are Enemies on the 18th of this month. We're gonna have Crash Jackson taking on the returning Vinny Pacifico. Now, huge news coming in. If you guys are gonna be in LA for the WrestleMania week, then you guys are in for a treat. I mentioned before the Prestige Wrestling will be making their appearance there. They'll be doing their shows at the Globe Theater. However, they just announced a very popular Japanese legend will be making his debut there, and you guys know this guy too well. It's Ultimo Dragon. Yes, he'll be at Nervous Breakdown on the 31st of March. I'm like excited to see who's gonna face him. I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. So mark that in your calendars if you're gonna be there. Now, our last updates is the GCW updates. First things first, for the Jimmy Lloyd birthday on the 17th of February, two things have been announced. MLJ, who's been their ring announcer, will be there. But also, we got Dante Leon versus Cole Radrick. That's going to be one killer match. For an eye event that takes place on the 2nd of no on the 7th of March, we're going to have the GCW World Tag Team titles on Lionel Macizos taking on Rina Yamashita and Sawyer Wreck. And then after that, for Bloodsport, we have, of course, Jeff Cobb making his appearance there, so that's going to be good. For the Culture on the 30th, we have Man Like Darius will be making his debut. For DDT, take place on the 30th, we have Tetsuya Endo taking on Joey Janela. And then finally, for the GCW versus DDT, we have Blake Christian taking on the former KOD Openweight champion, Kasusada Higuchi. That's going to be one killer match, I'm sure. So I think that's pretty much it, what we have for our news updates. I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have more on Choco Pro, 292, I believe. Yeah, 292. And of course, we have the New Beginning in Osaka by New Japan Pro Wrestling. And of course, NWA Enough Said. That's going to be one whole thing. And we do know we're going to have 2 sessions of the J Cup tournament by Jersey Championship Wrestling. I may save that for another later date, but we'll go from there since there is no New Japan Strong for the Saturday. But I'll do the best I can. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the upcoming episodes. So stand by for those. But right now, I'm going to say this. I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.